Now, I don't know Dwyane Wade personally, and he's on the short list of NBA players who I'm not sure if they actually watch my videos, but given that he is up there when it comes to his age and he probably doesn't have that much time left in the NBA, I think it's safe to say that he's probably considering signing to a contending team or one of the better teams in the NBA once he hopefully declines his player option this season. I say hopefully just because I'd like to see Dwyane Wade on a winning team, but of course, he has all the power in the world. He could choose to return to the Bulls because it is a lot of money, and I'm not in the position he's in, but for this video, we're going to talk about how good Dwyane Wade still is, and I think if he decides to sign with a winning team, he could be the guy who pushes a fringe contender perhaps a little bit higher, and if he really wanted to go to one of the top teams in the league, like one of the top 2 or 3 teams, then I think he could be that last step to making them a real, just putting them over the top, if you will. And Dwyane Wade as a player, yeah, the athleticism is not what it once was when he was like dunking on Anderson Varejao, but more like he's very crafty. So the handle is still there, and he knows how to get an angle on his defender and then attack, and he can finish with both hands, whether it be around the rim, but he's also got a myriad of like hook shots and bank shots and turnaround jumpers. And I mean, when he gets to around 15 feet, his ability to just put the ball in the basket somehow is very impressive. And I also think, given the team that has been around him with the Bulls this year, you could make the argument that just being on a team with more shooting around him and perhaps a better head coach than Fred Hoiberg, he could actually be more productive or perhaps play less minutes but be more efficient. So we're just going to talk about a few teams and how they could get Wade, just, you know, how he would fit in there. And I think the one that we can start off with is the Cleveland Cavaliers. Here's the thing, the NBA mid-level exception is going to be going up to $8.4 million for next season. Is Wade willing to take $8 million? Maybe, but even so, with a team like the Cavaliers, they would be above the luxury tax line, which means they would not be able to use the mid-level. The only way that they would be able to actually get Wade would be they'd have to part with like Channing Frye and maybe even someone like an Iman Shumpert. I don't know if I would do all that for Dwyane Wade. I also don't know if the Cavaliers actually need Wade because offensively they're fine. Their problem is defense, and while I wouldn't say Wade is a terrible defender at this point, there are definitely better options out there when I need to improve defensively. So, I mean, I know that one would get some press, Dwyane Wade rejoining LeBron in Cleveland. I don't know if that one would be the smartest move for the Cavs, but I mean, with LeBron as the general manager, who really knows? The other one I think is interesting is the San Antonio Spurs, and this one I think is possible. I assume they're going to re-sign Patty Mills, and I also assume that they will re-sign Dwayne Dedmon, and depending on how crazy some other team goes for those two, I could picture the Spurs actually re-signing both of them and then still having the money to go after a guy like Dwyane Wade. Remember, the mid-level of about $8.4 million, this is Dwyane Wade deciding, yeah, I want to be on a winning team, which he might not do again, but if he was in San Antonio, I think, of course, the star player is still Kawhi Leonard, and the offense is going to be run through Kawhi's isolations, his post-ups, his pick and rolls, as well as his post-ups, if I didn't already say that, which I'm pretty sure I did. I mean, Kawhi's the main dude, but Dwyane Wade could play off of that very well. We've already seen him play off of Jimmy Butler this season, and it's been pretty okay, except San Antonio has a crap ton more shooting, as well as just a better offense than the Chicago Bulls do. So I think Dwyane Wade could fit into San Antonio's system really well, and I could picture Popovich drawing up a lot of sets that get Wade going towards the basket, or they get Wade in good isolation opportunities, or they just have him in positions where he doesn't have to strain himself in order to help this San Antonio team win. I could picture a lot of LaMarcus Aldridge post-ups that lead to Wade cutting to the basket, and I could perhaps even picture a sort of lineup where you have Dwyane Wade as your main dude if Kawhi's not in the game, and then you have shooters around him. I mean, I'm not Greg Popovich, so I'm sure he could come up with a million better ideas than what I just did. But I would like to see Dwyane Wade on this team because I think he could be pretty productive, and I think he could be maybe that one more guy, you know, just one other scorer who can play like 20 to 25 minutes a game for them. And I mean, maybe he's the sixth man, but I think that's fine. And I think he would buy into it given Greg Popovich's system and the success they've had. And then you look at the star power they already have with Kawhi and Aldridge. I think Wade could make a good fit. Now, I could also picture him signing with the Los Angeles Clippers. The problem with that is the only way they would have the money to offer him the mid-level would be if either JJ Redick, Chris Paul, or Blake Griffin left. And if any of those three guys leave, then Dwyane Wade signing there really doesn't matter because the loss that they got from the other guy leaving, Dwyane Wade showing up wouldn't make up for that. So, I mean, I thought about it for a minute, but it just doesn't make sense. Like, the money's not there for the Clippers. Now, the Utah Jazz are another interesting one. Utah has been building up this rebuild, quote-unquote, for quite a while now, and they're finally going for wins. And they are going to have to re-sign George Hill and Gordon Hayward, but I think if you were willing to part with a guy like Alec Burks, who's been injured as all hell, and hasn't really made himself in the rotation, then I think you could have some room for a guy like Dwyane Wade, and I think this one would be kind of an example of like a good team that needs maybe that one veteran push to kind of elevate them into the next tier of the NBA, because Utah is on the bubble right now. They're going to win about 50-something games, or maybe just a little over 50 games, and I wouldn't be surprised if they beat the Clippers in round one. Also, we got a Dwyane Wade three-pointer in this video, so that's cool. Who knows if he'd actually hit one with the Jazz. Although he probably would in the playoffs, because playoff Dwyane Wade becomes Reggie Miller for some reason. But I digress. The Jazz are right on the cusp of becoming one of the elite teams in the NBA, and getting a guy like Dwyane Wade could be the next piece. And I also think they have a lot of guys who can play off-ball. George Hill has always been an off-ball point guard who's been in pick and rolls a bit more often this season, so I think he would be comfortable in lineups with Dwyane Wade. But they also have a big shooting guard in Rodney Hood, someone who maybe would be the starter over Wade, I don't know, but I think just given his age, I think Wade is going to need some help with another shooting guard on the roster, and Rodney Hood seems like an exciting young scorer for the Jazz, even if he's been a little inefficient for my tastes. But I think just having that security, knowing that, you know, Wade might not be able to play every single game, and you might want to save him in back-to-backs for the playoffs and stuff like that. But I do think just having that veteran, I mean, it's kind of like Jason Kidd on the Knicks 7 or 8 years ago, not that long ago, but you know what I mean. And then finally, the Washington Wizards. I mean, these guys made a move similar to this not long ago where they wanted to help out what they already had going on when they signed Paul Pierce to help out John Wall and his pick and roll game. And then you look at Bradley Beal and his shooting, another shooting guard who can offer security for Dwyane Wade if he's just not simply able to play every single game of an NBA regular season. Otto Porter provides shooting. I think it's a team that already has solidified a lot of things. I think the Wizards are in a similar situation to the Jazz where they're just right there and they need that one little push, and Dwyane Wade could be that. Now, they are going to have to re-sign Otto Porter, and they probably want to re-sign Bogdanovich as well, but you part ways with a guy like Jason Smith, and the money is just about there to where you're not up against the luxury tax, and then you could use the mid-level on D-Wade. It's nice to have a guy who's battle-tested, who's been in big games. When it's a close one, he can be in the huddle, he can be a voice, and he can tell everybody to calm down, and he can produce when he's actually out on the floor. And not to mention, I think his cutting would be a really good fit with John Wall and his playmaking ability. So those are just a few teams. I don't know what Dwyane Wade is going to do this offseason. I think he could be a big piece for a team either looking to become an elite team in the NBA or a team like the San Antonio Spurs that wants that one extra piece to win a championship. Whatever it may be. He could decide to go somewhere else. He could decide to return to the Miami Heat, but I mean, these are just ideas.